Good morning. So will everyone find their seat, and we'll begin the Committee on the Status of Boys and Men of Color status hearing on agency and systems leaders' progress. Welcome, everyone. Welcome on a Monday morning. I am Assemblymember Reggie Jones Sawyer. I am one of the chairs of the Assembly Select Committee on Boys and Men of Color, and I represent South Los Angeles, Walnut Park, Huntington Park, and Florence Firestone. Obviously, I am very excited about being here today, not only to welcome our speakers and guests, but I'm hearing there's about 300 youth who have traveled from all across the state to be here. The youth perspective is something we don't hear often in the Capitol. Collectively, your voices will help create legislation that ultimately improves the outcomes for boys and men of color. Today's hearing about advancing the Boys and Men of Color Committee priorities and policies. This year, these priorities include Proposition 47 implementation, health care for all, ensuring the successful implementation of the local control funding formula, and addressing school climate issues, including the continued disproportionate suspension rate for brown and black boys. Over the past several years, my colleagues and I in the legislature, in partnership with the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, have passed over 20 bills that we hope will create tangible change within these communities. These policies have dealt with a range of issues, including reducing school suspensions and ensuring ex-offenders are given an equal chance in the hiring process. However, despite such progress, more work must be done to address systemic inequalities for some of our most vulnerable youth. And that is why we are here today, to hear from both youth and agency leaders on the implementation of important policies that seek to improve our youth with more opportunities. Thank you. Right now, I'd like to introduce the other chair, Assemblymember Rob Bonta.
Thank you, Chair Jones Sawyer, and good morning, everyone. Excited to be with you today for this hearing. I'm Assemblymember Rob Bonta, honored to serve as the Assembly member for the 18th Assembly District and also as the chair, along with Chair Jones Sawyer of the Select Committee. And today's an exciting day, and I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for all of the critical work that you've done already and continue to do to expand opportunities for our boys and men of color throughout California. And we're also going to have a rally today, as you all know, so I'm very excited and inspired to be part of that and looking forward to that event later today. And we'll continue to discuss throughout today and at that rally the state laws and policies that we are promoting and have worked to support already to help all of our boys and men of color reach their full potential in work and school and in life. And we often mention in discussing the status of boys and men of color that far too many boys and men of color feel locked in, locked up, or locked out. And whether that's being locked out of educational opportunities due to poverty or other reasons, or locked into environments in which trauma and toxic stress are far too common, or literally being locked up in the criminal justice system due to structural inequities and lack of opportunity, the Select Committee has been working hard for many years to change these circumstances and to alter these outcomes. This is the committee's 5th year, as many of you know, and I think my colleagues will agree that in this 5th year, we are reinvigorated, re-inspired, and impatient for change. And we have an unprecedented membership this year, 22 members participating from the State Assembly, and we have a host of very high priority issues that we're eager to continue to tackle and craft solutions for. For background, for those that haven't had the personal experience to be there from the very beginning, the committee was established in 2011 by my predecessor in the California State Assembly, Assemblymember Sandre Swanson. And over the past 4 years, the committee has held hearings all over the state and established 67 specific policy recommendations in an action plan entitled Claiming the Promise of Health and Success for Boys and Men of Color in California. The action plan focuses on 5 issue areas: health, education, juvenile justice, youth development, and employment, and we'll be discussing those issue areas today. And those issue areas are why we're here today, to monitor agency progress with respect to those recommendations and hold those responsible for implementation of the policies accountable. This hearing, for those reasons, in my opinion, is one of the most important hearings of the year. A day where we bring our state's agency and system leaders to the table to discuss the real attention they are giving to boys and men of color in our state and learn what we can do as legislators to help them fulfill those 67 goals that we believe are critical to the success of so many youth facing unbearable obstacles at home, school, in their communities, and in the job market. So these are some of the most important issues that we face as legislators, and I think that's why you see the unprecedented number of Assembly members involved in the Select Committee this year. Our momentum continues to increase, and our movement continues to grow. And in each of these issues that we'll discuss today and that are the priorities for the Select Committee, they are infused with justice, opportunity, and equity. And I feel honored to have the opportunity to join forces with this powerful group of forward-thinking legislators, agency and system leaders, and youth who are impatient for change. I'm looking forward to a thoughtful and inspiring hearing today, and I want to give an opportunity to our Select Committee member, Cheryl Brown, to provide any remarks that she may want to.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here today and be a part of this as a mother of a son, as a grandmother to grandsons. It's wonderful to be here to talk about this subject. Today we will be doing more listening, I hope, than a lot of work, but we need to hear what our youth have to say. We need to hear what this community has to say about what's going on in our state. So without further ado, I would like to make sure that we get started so that we won't be too late and we can hear from those who are going to speak to us.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We have a number of policy panels that we're going to get to, but before we do, to start us off today, we wanted to have a more detailed picture painted of our context and sort of where we've been, where we are today, and where we're headed. And to help us with that, I want to invite up our first panel, which include Angela Glover Blackwell, founder and CEO of PolicyLink, Robert Phillips, Director of Health Programs and California Executives Alliance, and Robert Garcia, Mayor of Long Beach. Okay, and we have an ambitious hearing schedule today with a lot of panels and speakers, and in order to help make sure we get to everybody and stay on time, we have a timekeeper who will be to your right, who will be indicating to you how much time you have left. So to the extent we can comply with the time structure, it'll help us get through our full agenda today. Whenever you're ready. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Good morning. It is my pleasure and honor to be here this morning. I am so proud of the work of the California Select Committee on the Status of Boys and Men of Color. I congratulate you on moving your leadership forward to really advance opportunities and outcomes for young boys and men of color. The areas that have already been mentioned, education, health, employment, juvenile justice, and safety, are extraordinarily important, not just for the lives of boys and men of color, but for their families, for the communities, for the state, and for the nation. In the United States, you are part of a handful of state legislative committees tackling these issues, and none is doing it as successfully or as boldly as you are. The issues that you have previously supported in terms of the local control funding formula that more fairly distributes our resources to the schools that need them the most, the way that you have addressed the disparate impact of suspension and expulsions and the impact that in particular that has on students of color has really been outstanding. The way that you have really looked at the health effects of adverse childhood experiences and removed barriers, systemic barriers that keep those who are formerly incarcerated from securing employment and accessing job training programs is really to be admired. The fact that 22 members have joined really says that this state is stepping up, understanding the challenge, and really putting its shoulder to the wheel to make sure that things move forward. I applaud the way that you are removing systemic barriers, lifting up promising practices, and really bringing incentives to the systems to work better. But not only have you been supporting those things, but once something is in place, you're really moving forward to make sure that implementation happens. The accountability through the local control accountability plans ensures that the local communities are getting the resources to the communities that need them most. Ensuring that the savings from Prop 47 are reallocated to community-based organizations really gets at the root causes of why we have so much recidivism in the state. And the way that you are so proactively getting into the emerging issues. You're just staying on it. And I can't tell you how much this is appreciated in the communities that understand with depth and nuance why it is so many of our boys and young men of color have not been able to reach their full potential. You're getting into the issues of policies that can hold police departments accountable so that communities that are served by them get the full benefit and not get discriminated against or mistreated by police departments. You're really looking at how to integrate undocumented boys and men of color into our community along with their families. And you're bolstering previous efforts to really look at healing and trauma-informed care and to make sure that restorative justice models that benefit boys and men of color get the support and the highlight and the attention that they need. It is so important to stay on these issues because California is at the forefront of the nation in terms of the shifting demographics. In California, 3 out of every 4 young people, they're all are of color. 3 out of 4 young people are of color in this nation. And we know that what we do for communities of color is not only in good for those communities, it's not only the moral thing to do, and it is indeed the moral thing to do, but it is the only thing to do. It has become an economic imperative. Going forward, there are things that we still have to focus on. We need to make sure that the flexibility, the discretionary funds in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act get to those communities that need it most, that we're directing that to disconnected youth, making sure that they can get the training that they deserve. We need to be sure that we are reinvesting in the issues of school climate and justice in reinvestment. It is so important that we keep that issue at the forefront. We also need to make sure that we are aligning and working with the Presidents of the United States initiative on My Brother's Keeper, and that is happening. 26 of the 200 cities that have stepped forward to respond to the President's challenge are right here in California. California is leading the way. You are helpful in doing that, and it makes such a difference. Whether you're a Latino child in the San Joaquin Valley, a black teenager in South Los Angeles, a Southeast Asian worker in the Bayview Hunters Point, Native American in Coachella, whether you're gay, bisexual, transgender, undocumented, or fifth generation, all need to have this kind of laser focus on making sure that we make good on the promise, that all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. Thank you for your leadership, and know that we, PolicyLink, are here to help, and the entire Alliance for Boys and Men of Color is not just grateful, but determined to help you in your leadership to create greater opportunity and pathways for all. Thank you so much.
Morning. Thank you, both Chair Bonta and Chair Joan Sawyer. So on behalf of our co-chairs, Chet Hewitt, who is President and CEO of the Sierra Health Foundation, and Julia Lopez, who's President and CEO of the College Futures Foundation, it's our honor and privilege to be here, both in partnership with you, but also to give a few remarks. So across California, as Angela has pointed out, there are a number of efforts going on around this that have grown both in stature, but also in energy. And California's foundations are also beginning to realize that. And although we've been working in different ways around these issues, we've now come together to actually match our efforts with the efforts that Angela's outlined through My Brother's Keeper, through the work that you all have done, through the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color. And in addition to Chet and Julia, there are 20 other foundations. So there are 21 foundations, 22 foundations total, who have now collectively come together to have the opportunity to both coordinate with you all and themselves, but also amplify this important conversation in California, just for 2 reasons. One is that we can collectively do more together than we have alone. We all know that the fate of boys and men of color are really critical to the future of this state, and that we are beginning to realize that there is a cultural moment that we're experiencing in which people are waking up to the realities not only of folks of color in the state of California generally, but young males of color specifically. And in this moment, folks are becoming energized for action. And we're pleased to partner with you all and being a catalyst for this action, but also with the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color to actually not just spur action, but continue to support that action. And with leadership from some of California, the CEOs from some of California's most prominent foundations, we believe that through this partnership that we can actually help the business community, government, local government, as well as the philanthropic community do more to work towards the inclusion of communities of color, but actually begin to address the systemic issues that Angela just outlined. The second is that these foundation CEOs, along with you all, are realizing that all of us who care deeply about California must understand that, our vision of future prosperity and equity can't be achieved by ourselves. And that is why we are extraordinarily happy to partner formally with the Select Committee on Boys and Men of Color to actually make this vision a reality in the state. And to really begin to recognize that if we continue to exclude broad swaths of our community in the state of California generally, and specific portions of that population, the vision that we have for California will never be achieved. And as civic organizations in this state, that's something that we actually believe we must address. So that being said, we both are honored and privileged to be welcomed into this fight. And we also welcome you all into this movement. We ask that we all work together to spread this message of inclusion and opportunity for all in the state of California.
Thank you so much. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank you once again for all of your tremendous leadership and work and partnership for so long in this critical work that we're doing together. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your continued inspirational leadership.
Thank you. And I just want to give any members an opportunity to ask any questions. Hopefully you can keep it brief because we're on a tight schedule. But while we have them there, if there's any burning questions that you may have.
Ms. Blackwell, you sounded as though everything was beautiful, everything we're doing is great. I just think that there should be something else that we're doing that can make a difference in our communities. Can you talk about, just for briefly, what that might be?
Thank you. I do think it's important to lift up what you're doing right. I think that too often when people step up and provide leadership, they don't get enough credit for the leadership that they are providing. So I don't want you to treat that lightly. My point was to say you are doing more than anybody else in the country, and it is important. But everything that you're doing, there's a ton to still do on it. Let's just take the area of policing. I mentioned it because it is emerging as an issue for you. It is one of the most important issues in the communities across the state of California and across the country. So many young people, both those that get caught up in the criminal justice system, but even those who don't, have their expectations for their lives lowered because of what they see happening all around them, because they don't feel valued, because they don't feel respected. We collectively, as a nation, as a state, as local communities, we are putting a ton of money into policing, and it makes no sense that those systems are not accountable. So I think that standard really needs to be set at the federal, at the state, and at the local level. We haven't even begun to work on that issue effectively. On the issue of Prop 47, extraordinary leadership, and I just applaud it every day. But we need to make sure now that it is in place that the California public knows why we've done it, they know what we're achieving from it, and that those resources are going to the root causes. It is not enough just to turn those resources and put them right back in the system that has created so much of the unjust result in the first place. We need for community-based organizations that are in neighborhoods, that are providing jobs, that are providing mentoring, that are helping young people in school to get those resources so that we really can stop this flow into the system. We keep talking about mass incarceration, but it's not really mass. It's Black and Latino young people who are getting caught up in this system, and we need to make sure that the resources are getting into the right place. This notion of integration into the community for so many of our families that are struggling to be able to make it. That's very important, and there is much more to do there. And the local control funding formula. We need to make sure that we're really looking at those accountability plans, being sure that they are accomplishing what it is we need to accomplish. Obviously, I could go on and on. I don't want to, but I don't want to lessen my congratulations because it is sincere. We need your leadership and everything that you've started. We are just at the beginning.